Hi everyone and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to answer a question that I get asked all the time, and that's to do with choosing the dimensions of your painting. So how do I decide what size to work on when I start a pastel painting? I hope that you enjoy this and that you find it helpful. If you do, then please do subscribe to me here on YouTube. Also check me out on Patreon if you'd like access to my full library of real-time tutorials and lots more. There are a few different things that might affect my decision of what size to work on. If I choose to work on a smaller scale, maybe it's a commission and my client has specifically asked for a smaller portrait. Or perhaps the photo reference may not be high resolution, meaning it would be harder to create a big painting. But also, maybe I'm deliberately working small, challenging myself and experimenting with new ideas. Recently, that's landscapes for me. I find it easier to test out ideas and not get carried away with unnecessary detail when the painting is small. Alternatively, I may decide to work big for some similar reasons. Maybe a client has requested it. Maybe the photo reference is so detailed and with so much going on that it's worth painting it big. Or like before, maybe I'm just fancying working bigger. Because I really enjoy working in a broad range of sizes, going from little 6-inch thumbnail studies to giant 40-inch wide paintings. I will just mention at this point that I'm aware that I talk about these measurements mostly in inches. I've just always really liked using inches in terms of picture sizes. Nice rounded numbers, I suppose. I'm aware that inches aren't used everywhere, and I will put on screen the metric conversion for each time I'm talking about some measurements in inches. But here is a look at what my popular sizes have been over the years working on both portrait commissions and my own series of wildlife and landscapes. These represent a broad range of sizes that I work in, and the reasons I already mentioned will often determine what size I choose. So in this chart, I'm showing you what I find possible to complete on certain sizes. So you can see that a single head portrait is the easiest one to fit on any size. You can work small or you can supersize a head portrait too and work really large. So the sizes down the left are just a range of sizes that I've worked in over the years. You can work to any dimensions that you want. These ones are just ones that kept popping up throughout my commissions. Now, of course, I'm using mostly dogs as examples in this video just because I've painted so many different sizes of dog portrait, and it makes it easy for me to show you the comparison in those sizes. But you also need to take into consideration if you're painting other animals like horses, whether you're doing a full body horse or just a horse's head might possibly make a huge difference to the size of painting that you choose to do. When a client contacts me for a commission, I usually quote them for 3 sizes. The one that I feel is ideal, and then usually both a smaller and a slightly larger one. My client in this case asked specifically for a head portrait, but because they sent me such a beautiful photo reference, I did send them one option also for the full body portrait. But in the end, they took my ideal size for the head portrait, which was 16 by 12 inches. Sometimes it's cost that determines which one they choose. Sometimes a client specifically wants something either tiny or enormous. Sometimes even the photo reference itself lends itself to a specific size or shape. For example, this one worked out perfectly at 16 inches square. I love a square format sometimes, and that is usually determined by a photo that just crops nicely to a square. And in this case, client gave me free choice of what size to do it. Cost wasn't a problem, they were open to suggestions, and for me the 16 inches gave me just the perfect amount of space to create lots of detail without it being an enormous painting. I would say that with soft pastel you can paint quite loosely and expressively, but also quite tightly and controlled. So you have options with this wonderful medium. For example, if you only like to work on portraits that are super detailed, then going very small probably won't suit your style. I would say that a detailed head portrait in soft pastel needs to be anywhere around 9 inches, a bit like this one here, and ideally have the face pretty much fill the picture. I would work on a simple head portrait anywhere between 9 and 16 inches usually. Now, of course, with the help of pastel pencils, you can go much smaller than this. And of course, there is not much of an upper limit as to how big you can go. I mean, if you can find a big enough surface to paint pastel on, you can go as big as you want. In terms of the pastel papers I use, my maximum size is usually around 40 inches, the size of the paper. But the best sizes for me for a good detailed head portrait is usually between 9 to 16 inches. For full body animal portraits, I might need to work bigger for more complicated scenes. But again, to be honest, I could have painted this image smaller and with less detail if the client had wanted it. Luckily, they wanted something large and their photo reference was stunningly detailed. But here's an example of a smaller painting of the same breed with a full body portrait. What changes for me is the style in which I paint the portrait. So I'll give you a quick little comparison here of some of my full body portraits from over the years. You can see that they're all a similar level of detail, and you can see some of the reasons why I've chosen to work bigger in some cases. Maybe there's an extra dog there, maybe the dog breed is bigger. But with the final giant one, I could have actually painted this smaller because you can see that the dogs look very big within the painting, and they were, but that was what the client wanted. So really there's no upper limit, it's more the smaller limit that you've got to worry about with soft pastel. But even though I normally paint full body portraits a little larger to allow the animal to have lots of detail, here are 3 examples where I did the complete opposite. In each of these paintings, the dog is a mere perhaps 3 or 4 inches in total size, leaving the face extremely tiny on each one of these. And I just wanted to show you that full range of sizes is possible, but you do sacrifice some detail when you paint smaller. On the other end of the scale now is my tiny painting of my dog Lola in a landscape. Now, of course, this is much less detailed, but it's simply to show the fantastic range of sizes that are possible to work in soft pastel. Little Lola is literally about 2 inches squared in this painting, but you can still get a face in there and get a sense of some character. So it's definitely possible to work tiny in soft pastel. What seems to matter most is the style that you work in. If it's normally more detailed, then avoid going really small. Search for the ideal size that you like to work in, and then make sure that your portraits in future fit those dimensions. So for example, on a portrait where you felt just about comfortable with the level of detail that you could create, measure the dimensions of the face in that portrait, and then make sure that the face is at least this size in future commissions. So for example, with these 2 paintings, they're quite similar in scale, but the size of the face in each image is so different. If I had needed little Lola's face to be at least this size, then you can imagine how big I would have had to make the portrait. Because I'm willing to change the style that I work in, because these 2 styles are pretty different. We've got a lot of detail where I need more space, and then we've got this other style where I'm willing to capture a bit less, a bit more expressively what I'm looking to paint. So if you're willing to adjust the way that you work a little, you can work in such a broad range of sizes in soft pastel. If you're interested in learning more about working on smaller paintings in soft pastel, I have several videos here on my YouTube channel to help you. One showing you how to make the most of those big chunky pastel sticks, breaking them up, how to get those smaller marks from them, and then some other videos as well just showing you different tips and techniques for painting small, either in creating small details or in learning to omit some details. I hope that you found this helpful though, and I will make my chart of popular sizes for soft pastel available to download over on my Patreon channel. Have a look at the link in my description below. But please do make sure that you're subscribed to me here on YouTube. Thanks very much for watching this, and until next time, happy pasteling.